Welcome back to Talent Hub Talk. So today I wanted to record a quick episode around how people can use AI as part of their Salesforce job search effectively without crossing a line that potentially makes them, stand out for the wrong reasons or potentially harms their job search. This has come up because I've had several conversations recently with clients where they've flagged some issues or concerns around some things they're seeing as part of a job application process. And I think a lot of people potentially aren't aware of how some of their applications are coming across, because obviously they're applying one to many and they're sending out lots of applications, but not necessarily hearing or seeing how those applications are landing and being received with different customers. Obviously, I'm having conversations with many, many different hiring managers at any one time. So I'm getting some insight from these customers of mine as to how they're receiving and feeling about certain applications and CVs. And therefore, I think it's important for me to pass this message back on to people so they can get an understanding of what's working well and what's not working so well. So obviously, we're all using, I hope we are all using AI as part of our day-to-day workflow now. And there's some obvious ways that you can use it as a tool for your job search, your job application process. And I think the line between using AI well and using it badly is really important when it comes to a job search. And that line matters a lot more than a lot of people think. So we'll go through some really obvious ones that I think probably most people have thought about or are already doing. If you're not, then definitely I recommend that you do start using some of these ways of incorporating AI into your job search workflow. It is still crazy how many people aren't doing anything though, and yeah, that really needs to change. The tools are there now. They're so helpful. There's so much that we can do with them. And if you're just spending time on job advert boards, things like Seek, Indeed, and not using tools, then definitely there are ways out there where you can maximize your job search, job application volumes, but also some other things that you can be doing. So some of the obvious ones, obviously, are company research. You know, if you've worked for a retail business in the past, managing their Salesforce org, utilizing AI to do the research for you for other maybe competitor companies or companies that use similar Salesforce products, companies that potentially would really value someone with your skill set and your background, rather than just waiting for a job to pop up on a job board. Using these tools to really get feedback on your profile as to where companies and the kind of companies that would value someone like you without you having to go and do those searches on things like LinkedIn yourself. It's really easy now to get recommendations as to companies that you could potentially be approaching, even potentially hiring managers within those companies. So using AI to do that kind of background research for you based on your profile and background. I think that's a really obvious one, but something that a lot of people aren't doing still because they're just relying on jobs popping up on a job board and applying. Obviously, then once you do get an interview, there's some research that you can be doing around hiring manager backgrounds, you know, their careers, similarities, things that you could be talking to them about, Salesforce community activity, their LinkedIn post from way back. Try to build a bit of a persona as to who they are, how they think, what they say, where they've been, conferences, different conference talks or things they may have presented in the past. So you're not having to scroll back through their LinkedIn profile looking for these things. Use AI to build that profile for you so you can get a really good insight into who the person you're going to be meeting is. The next one I think is a really important one to flag, but also this can this can be where some people cross the line a little bit. So obviously AI can write a CV for you. It can completely tailor your resume based on a job description, which I think is great, but also a problem if you're not spending time actually putting that into your own tone, your own voice. This is actually one of the areas that has come up recently where clients have flagged that every CV they're receiving is perfect for the job they're hiring for. Now, that might sound great, but the reality is that these people have identified that AI is actually just tailoring someone's CV based on the job description and making them look perfect. So yeah, obviously there's a few different chains of thought with this. Some people think that that's great, but in the hiring manager's shoes, if they're receiving, lots and lots of CVs at the moment and everyone looks absolutely perfect, it's the people that are sending their CVs where it's not looking like they've had their CV tailored completely by AI that are actually standing out. I had some good insight from one CIO of a business that was saying, use AI for 85%, but that 15% that you do yourself is actually the most important. So AI can give you the structure, the format, some key highlights for your CV, but you need to spend 15% of the time going through that, making amendments, making sure that it sounds like you, that it's using your tone, that it's coming across as written by you, and that your personality is coming across in your CV. So yeah, make sure that you are spending that time yourself working on it and not just relying or giving freedom to AI to make your CV sound robotic or absolutely perfect for the job description, because everyone else is doing that and you need a way to stand out. So it's about getting your personality and your own profile and tone and things like that across when you are using AI. Going a step further with interview prep. So you have a job description, you have your CV, you can put that into any of the AI tools out there and ask for some interview prep. So you can actually run a simulated technical and behavioral interview with AI and refining your answers and building up a bit of a tailored question bank, so that when you do get an interview and when you do go into an interview, you've already kind of sat through a fairly detailed and accurate representation of what that interview is going to look like. You can set AI up to really give you a grilling, to focus in on areas that you potentially might be a little bit weaker in. So you're building up some muscle memory around how you answer these questions, how you perform, and building up some confidence so that when you are sat in the interview, you've already gone through this before and you're well prepared and ready to deliver and give a really, really good impression to the hiring manager. Another one that I think people should be doing, especially in this day and age where people are applying for lots and lots of different roles, is using AI to build applicant tracking. So it can build one live record of what you've applied for, what the salary was, interview dates, who the hiring manager was, when you need to follow up, concerns you have, things you might have agreed to through the process, so how many days per week in the office, things like that. I used to recommend that people built this in their own Salesforce org, but now really it's something that can be spun up very quickly, and it gives you a full overview of where everything's at. Like you can build it in a Kanban board style, so you know what's moving, what's stuck, what you need to do to move things along. So there's absolutely no reason now to lose track of anything you've applied for. Absolutely no reason to forget something that you've agreed to or committed to, and yeah, that's another really easy and obvious way that you can be using things to keep on track and keep on top of where things are moving, what's at the top of the funnel and what's getting further down the line and what's looking more positive. Some of the less obvious ones that you could be doing. So if you're missing out on roles, you've applied for lots and you're missing out, I would look at a way of utilizing it to do some skill gap analysis. So, you've been applying for lots of different Salesforce admin roles. Here's all the job descriptions. Here's your profile at the moment and your skill set and your strengths. What are the common trends of the things that you don't have that these job specs are asking for? And also based on the questions that you've been providing in the mock interviews with AI, where are your gaps? And then that's areas that you can really focus in on alongside your job search, but things that you can be doing to upskill in the meantime. So obviously, if all of the last 10 Salesforce admin roles that you've applied for require someone with Agentforce experience and you don't have that, then that's going to be fairly obvious. But there might be other things that keep coming up in job specs that you're kind of overlooking or are just missing off of your CV, but you have actually done them before, then that's going to be a really good way to identify those gaps and go back and make sure that you're either upskilling or that you're just updating your CV with the relevant information. Understanding of market rates and negotiation prep. So there's obviously, we have a salary survey, but there's other businesses out there that release market data on salaries. That can be, some of them are more detailed than others, but you can get a really good insight by working with AI on pulling together all of the information that's out there for someone with your level of experience in your location, with your skill set, with your number of certifications, things like that, and getting a really good insight into what you should be earning. And then trying to understand, well, if actually you're looking to earn more than that, what do you need to do to plug that gap and how can you negotiate? You can do some mocks and some trial and test negotiations with AI, so you can really show how to put your best foot forward in those negotiations and really strengthen that discussion. Auditing your LinkedIn and CV. Obviously, like I said before, don't get it to write it completely. Keep your personality in there, but that should be something you're doing regularly. It's crazy how many CVs I see where dates aren't correct. There's overlap in where people have said they've been working, things like that, and that's not obviously going to be picked up by spell check, but it is something that I really identify quickly on CVs. And that's something that LinkedIn and CVs often make someone look like they don't have a great attention to detail. So go through, ask for some obvious issues on your CV, but also try to get an understanding of what your CV and LinkedIn profiles are signaling. Where what a recruiter's going to look at your profile and think. What does your CV? What's it going to jump out to someone as? Is it giving the message and the signal that you're hoping that it would? With the other angle is career planning, things around like certifications, the where the market's going, rather than just making your own informed decision on that. You can test that with AI. So if you're a Salesforce administrator but you're looking to become a functional consultant, trying to work with AI on how you do that, what the pathway planning is, what steps you need to take, whether certifications matter, whether there's actually certifications outside of the Salesforce space that would make sense now for you to consider, whether going on a formal and structured BA course is something that would make sense if that's a gap. And the beauty of this, obviously, is all of these things you're doing will build a profile of you. So if you're utilizing the same tool, let's say ChatGPT or Claude, for doing all of this, then it's going to have a really good idea of who you are, where your gaps are, where you hope your career is going, and will help you shape that and the steps that you can take to get to where you want to go. And then obviously things like follow-up notes and introductions. Again, this is a one that I recommend you don't allow or utilize AI to write the whole introduction for you or follow-up message for you, but you can get it to set the structure, and then tweak it and put your own tone on it. I put a post up recently on LinkedIn that said the amount of LinkedIn messages I get that are from people congratulating me on everything that Talent Hub has achieved. Now, I'm pretty sure that's written by LinkedIn AI. And unfortunately, when I get that, I just think, you know what, this person hasn't put any effort into this message. And obviously, the person sending it doesn't know that LinkedIn AI is writing that for every other message that I get sent. But I know that. So the person receiving the message gets to see the trends, and it makes it stand out that people aren't actually making much of an editorial effort after they've had AI write the note for them. So let it help to set the structure, let it pull in relevant information for you, but make sure that it's not just a generic template and that you're actually putting your own stamp on things. So the wrong way of using AI within your interview process, the first one I've kind of covered is obviously not letting it write the CV follow-ups, not using it entirely, and 100% of what it says shouldn't be going into your messages on your LinkedIn, on your CV. If you think of it as that kind of 85-15, I think it would be probably even better if it was more like 50-50. Like, let it write the structure, the format, and then go back through and change it to make it sound like something you have written. Get your personality across, put your own stamp on it. Don't allow it to sound robotic, because that makes a really bad first impression. If someone's reading something, they can just see straight away that this wasn't you that's written it. I think that's something that's really not standing out well for hiring managers and also recruiters. The other one that has come up a fair bit is, on several occasions now, I've spoken to a client after a video interview, and the client has said, look, the person did quite well in the interview, but I was actually concerned that they were using AI through the process. Now, I don't know how they're doing that, and I don't know if every time that's been raised, they actually have been doing that. But I can imagine that's incredibly off-putting. And if you're trying to read an answer to a question that you're being asked and then deliver that answer in a professional manner without giving that away, that to me sounds like a recipe for disaster. Now, hiring managers want to know that you are able and willing and keen to use AI tools as part of your workflow in work, but they're also looking to understand that you've got the right level of information and knowledge yourself prior to hiring you. And ultimately, you should be able to answer the questions that you're being asked, or should be able to explain how you would go about finding out if you don't already know the answer. And I think it's just a recipe for disaster if you're reading from a screen and trying to make that sound like your own answer. So it's definitely detectable. Like I said, I don't know if it's been every time that the hiring manager has suggested that's happening that it actually is. But yeah, it definitely is a reason for a red flag for a lot of hiring managers. And also, I think it would be really disappointing if you get to the end of the interview and you think to yourself, I actually knew all of those answers anyway. But now I'm not going to get the job because I've given away the fact that I'm reading off of another screen. So yeah, faking answers and faking your knowledge through the interview process has never gone down well. Whether that's someone else sat in the room with you answering the questions and you regurgitating them, or someone else doing the interview for you, or now obviously the introduction of AI through the interview process. I just think you need to be honest with your level of expertise, knowledge, and capabilities, and put your best foot forward. Go into an interview well prepared and of the belief that you will be able to answer what you're asked, and not utilizing AI during the interview to try and give yourself a leg up, because it just doesn't seem to work. So yeah, that's for me the two biggest red flags. Giving all of the power to AI to write your content, whether that's your LinkedIn or CV, and then also utilizing tools while you're actually sat in an interview. You wouldn't be able to do that obviously in a face-to-face interview. So treat every interview as if it is that, and do your best to be able to answer what you're being asked. And if not, then take the feedback on board. Go away, learn, go back to the beginning of the process, utilize AI again to say, this is the feedback I've received. This is why I was unsuccessful. What can I work on? Build a plan from there as to how you can go away and secure the next role when you do get into an interview. So for me, you definitely need to be using AI as part of your job search, your job application process. If you're not, then it doesn't make any sense to me right now, because there's definitely ways that you can shortcut without losing quality. There's definitely ways that you can find out about more job opportunities, find out about or approach different opportunities that you might not have even thought about before. But there is a real fine line between taking it in a useful way and overstepping that line, and ultimately putting hiring managers off. So yeah, hopefully that's been valuable. Like I said, a lot of that you should already be doing anyway. Hopefully there's a couple of things in there that you haven't thought of before, and you're going to start utilizing. But overall, make sure you don't overstep that line, and good luck with your job search.